When the Formula One teams last visited Phoenix, the temperature topped 110 degrees. But by moving the race from June to March to begin the 1990 schedule, we have achieved a 50-degree drop in temperature that has had a pronounced effect on these fabulous race cars. Grand Prix and World Champion are much abused terms in motorsports, but what you're about to see is the beginning of a 16-race schedule that is truly a globe-girdling World Championship aiming for a great prize, the Grand Prix. Everything about Formula One racing is larger than life, including the checkbooks. And for more on that, I'd like to welcome back my regular Formula One colleague here on ESPN, David Hobbs. David?
Well, Bob, let's just start with the cars. To the casual observer, an Indy car and a Formula One car look very similar, and they have their own rules and regulations according to engine size and car weight and so on. But Indy cars as well have specific rules to keep the cost of racing down. This certainly does not apply to Formula One cars, where technological advancement is absolutely awesome, as is the cost. The top drivers, too, are in a world of their own when it comes to money. The 4 drivers you've already seen featured today, this year will take home about $36 million in salary, excluding prizes and bonus. Compare that with Tyrrell, who after 18 years has just reached his first $10 million. We've just come off a long winter season, but even the off-season in Formula One is expensive. More on that, let's go down to John Bisignano.
David, it's been 18 weeks since the Formula One fraternity has left Australia. No racing during that period of time, but what has taken place is some of the most intense testing in the history of Formula One. Everyone up and down this pit lane, they are totally committed to closing the technical gap. Ferrari, with their brand new engine, Alain Prost, has done thousands of miles, and he does say that soon he will be able to go head-to-head with the McLarens. The Benetton team has formed the greatest organization in their history. Frank Williams, with the Renault-powered cars, went all the way to South Africa just for secrecy. Everyone in Formula One over the past 2 years has been dreaming of a more competitive situation amongst the teams. Well, with the information out of testing this year, that dream may become a reality. Now, how does that affect things here in Phoenix? Let's go down to Marty Reed and find out.
Thanks, John. Hello again, everybody. You know, the first race of the season is always filled with anticipation and excitement, but never more so in the last couple of years in Formula One than this year. Take a look behind me. This is row 2. Jean Alesi in a Tyrrell alongside Andrea de Tegeris in a Dallara. Then up in the front row, starting second, Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, right alongside our pole sitter, Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. What's going on? Well, in all honesty, the rain did put a damper on anybody's attempt to move the positions around in the qualifying yesterday. But a number of teams, for the first time in several years, feel that they have a good opportunity to move into the top 5 of the upper echelon. What about the Ferraris? Well, Alain Prost is going to start 7th, and Nigel Mansell is buried in 17th.
Thank you, Marty. The Ferrari's just one of the stories yet to play out as we await the start of the first Grand Prix of the 1990s. Formula One enters its 5th decade right here on ESPN. We'll introduce the grid to you in just a moment. ESPN Grand Prix, stay with us. Welcome back to Phoenix, Arizona, where engines have been fired, and we're just moments away from the start of the 1990 Formula One season here on ESPN. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs with you, Marty Reed, and John Bisignano along pit road. As the final thoughts play through the minds of the drivers, 26 men about to launch on the United States Grand Prix. Weather conditions here in Phoenix, 50 degrees cooler than they were last June when these drivers last took to the streets. The wind will be blowing up their backs on the long Jefferson Street straightaway, and there is a larger chance of rain than there was this morning, so weather could very much be a factor in this race. As the drivers begin their warm-up lap, let's take a look at the way they'll line up for this first event of the 1990 Formula One season. On the pole in his debut with the McLaren team, the 5th pole in his career, Gerhard Berger of Austria, 1.5 seconds under the lap record. Outside the front row, young Italian Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, giving Pirelli equal time with Goodyear on the front row. Inside row 2, Andrea de Tegeris, who climbed out of his car in tears after qualifying the Dallara. Next to him, Jean Alesi, his 9th Grand Prix. He's on row 2 in the Tyrrell. On row 3, Ayrton Senna, the qualifying master, the Brazilian and former world champion in a McLaren. Next to him, Nelson Piquet, the rejuvenated 3-time world champion from Brazil, now with the Benetton team. On row 4, the reigning world champion Alain Prost of France, making his debut with the Ferrari outfit. Next to him, young Frenchman Olivier Grilliard in a Pirelli-tired Osella. That's also his team debut. A year ago, Thierry Boutsen of Belgium would have been on the pole in the Williams Renault, but his time is good for only inside the 5th row this year. Next to him, young Italian Stefano Modena in the Brabham. That team arrived here at midnight Thursday night after changing hands on Thursday. On row 6, Satoru Nakajima of Japan in the Tyrrell. Next to him, Riccardo Patrese, the Williams Renault team, having a little trouble coming to grip with the streets here in Phoenix. Inside row 7, Nicola Larini of Italy, making his debut with the Ligier team. Next to him, Italian Paolo Barilla, a sports car race, has joined the Minardi team in Formula One. Inside row 8 will be Eric Bernard of France. Next to him will be Roberto Morena in the Eurobrunn Judd. On row 9, Nigel Mansell, having trouble in his Ferrari. He's next to Aguri Suzuki in the LaRousse Lamborghini. On row 10, Martin Donnelly of Great Britain, making his debut with the Lotus Lamborghini team, next to Bernd Schneider of Germany, sitting in for Alex Caffey in the Arrows team. On row 11, regular Arrows driver Michele Alboreto, next to Italy's Sandro Nannini in the Benetton. On row 12 will be Gregor Wojtek of Switzerland in the Brabham, next to Derek Warry of Great Britain. Warwick now with the Lotus team. And on row 13, Maurizio Gugelmin of Brazil in the Leighton House Judd, next to his teammate Ivan Capelli, who just squeaked into this field in the final position. Those who missed the cut, Tarquini of Italy, Yannick Dalmas, Claudio Langes, hoping for his Formula One debut. He won't get it. Gary Brabham, the younger brother of Jeff Brabham, the reigning IMSA Camel GT champion. Bertrand Gachot, Stefan Johansson, neither Onyx car made the field. Gianni Morbidelli will not race, nor will Philippe Ayot. Although he made the field, he was penalized. His mechanics jumped over the wall when his car stopped on the racetrack. He was disqualified, and he is out of this Phoenix Grand Prix. Now let's take a look at our 2.36-mile race course, 12 turns long, and here's David.
Well, Bob, of course, we think it's 12. They actually say 14, but I think it's because that long left hand at the end is what they call a double apex corner. So there's 9 left turns, 5 rights. It's about 170 miles an hour down those 2 long straights, 30 gear shifts a lap, very bumpy, extremely hard work for the driver.
We have 2 in-car cameras, actually 2 teams carrying in-cars, the Williams team and the Arrows team. There's a look from Thierry Boutsen's Williams. We'll also give you a look from the Arrows team, but the cars are coming to the grid. As soon as they all come to a stop, there is the other Williams car, Riccardo Patrese. Once they stop, within seconds, the green light will flash and we'll be underway. Let's get a quick report from Marty Reed.
We've got Martin Donnelly at the very end of pit lane. He's not going to make it in. The car, they pushed it all the way up from the 19th starting position. They could not get it to fire. Let's go back upstairs.
25 cars get the green flag. The revs come up, the clutches come out, and look at Gerhard Berger sweeps to the left-hand side of the road as the driver. He's got a right-hand turn coming up, so he wanted to get over on that side, and he absolutely snookered Pierluigi Martini. Jean Alesi now takes the inside of the turn, and he takes the position for Berger. Clean start at the end of Jefferson Street. One of who looks like Sandro Nannini getting very wide in the Benetton.
One of the Ferraris, that must be Alan Prost, who's moved right up near the front door, Andre de Jesuit.
We've had a collision down in that corner. You saw a piece of debris fly. I couldn't see who got wounded. Jean Alesi with a great start, better than Berger. Behind him is the Dallara, and behind him, Ayrton Senna. Martini, the youngster on the front row, got snookered at the start, but I'm surprised it didn't happen to Andre de Jesuit. He's right there in 3rd place in the red Dallara, just ahead of Ayrton Senna. Then comes Martini. Behind him, Nelson Piquet in the green Benetton, and then one of the Williams cars.
Well, Jean Alesi must have made an absolutely electrifying start there. He ran incredibly well this morning in warm-up.
Let's take a look at what just happened down in the corner. This is from the car of Riccardo Patrese, and he loses the nose, ran up the back of the Dallara. Tremendous impact. Well, that's one of the dangers of street racing, and you should understand that's what this is. It is a street. There is no runoff. These are workaday roads in Phoenix, Arizona, lined by 8,000-pound concrete barriers. Nose to tail, the field comes around to complete the first lap of a scheduled 72.
And of course there is absolutely no runoff area anywhere. Just one slight misstep and a wheel is whipped off the corner of the car, or the bodywork is lost. There's some debris flying around in the air, but look at Jean Alesi in that V8 engine car, outstripping the V10 car of Gerhard Berger, followed closely by Andre de Jesuit with another V8, and Ayrton Senna who probably would be my pick to win this race, hanging back there in fourth spot at the moment, but Alesi is gone.
There are many factors at work. The Tyrrell team last year was lost. They could not get the car engineered. There's Ricardo Patrese. Let's take a moment and get down to John Bizignano.
Ricardo Patrese is in the Williams pits. We have a total of 13 people on the team. The engine has gone quiet. The nose, they don't have to take the nose off. You did that on the circuit. A new nose is put on. It's a two-section. A lower section is being fitted now. We have the top section ready to go. A very short first lap here for the Italian Ricardo Patrese.
And he is joined in the pits right now by Sandro Nannini, who is in and out of the Benetton. A quick tire change. Must have thought he had one going down, David.
That one of his tires has gone flat.
Now there's Bernd Schneider in the pits. He has also had a problem. Schneider is sitting in for the injured Alex Caffey, who fell off a bicycle in training and broke his shoulder blade. We may see Caffey in Brazil in 2 weeks, but right now Bernd Schneider is in the car. There is your leader, Jean Alesi. This is only his 9th Grand Prix race, and he has not been intimidated by anybody. I said a moment ago, the Tyrrell team was lost last year. They couldn't even make a grid in some cases. Now they have switched to Pirelli tires. They are still running Ford V8s. They expect to get Honda motors before the year is out. To the right of your screen, Bernd Schneider is coming back out. Let's get a word from Marty Reed.
Well, guys, you're taking a look at the wheel, or what's left of it, from Sandro Nannini's car. You can see it. That's exactly why he had to come in and make that quick change.
Traffic always a consideration on street courses, and we got a problem down there. Somebody got...
I think that was Bernd Schneider trying to keep out of the way of the field as he gets himself back up to speed, and of course the rest of the field already is at speed. Look at Andre de Chezes hanging right in there, but I just can't believe the way that Jean Alesi, with considerably less horsepower, or so we're told, in these Honda V10 engines, is pulling away from them.
Let's give the guy his due. We used to call him Dick Crasherist, but Andre de Cesaris, with this race, sets a new standard for Formula One starts without a victory. 136 races. Let's get down to John Bizignano quickly.
You may see the Italian Patrese right back in the pits again because they let him out without the nose being properly fitted. The left side of the nose has a huge crack between the top of the bodywork and the body. They're trying to decide now if they think there's enough to hold the nose down. But they did not do it right. First pit stop for the Williams was not the best.
Tough break for the Williams team, who came here with such high hopes. They have new Renault engines in that car, and they thought they were going to do very well, but they've had all sorts of problems. There is Nelson Piquet in the multicolored Benetton car, and he has been electrifying. Everybody thought Piquet was washed up, and he came here, led one of the practice sessions, made a real good run for the pole. He is a rejuvenated man with that Benetton team. Thierry Boutsen just behind him.
Thierry Boutsen in the camera car, and that red car, number 1 there is Alan Prost, who is struggling at the moment to get around Stefano Modena in the Brabham, which ran very well here last year. But you remember there were times last year when they couldn't qualify either. The big unknown, of course, the Pirelli qualifying tyres for the last year have been recognised as being extremely good, but their race tyres have been a bit suspect. Well, for Alesi today and these other Pirelli job people, they're not the least bit suspect now.
Thierry Boutsen, you saw him rip away the tearaway shield on his visor, and when the sparks flew, you saw why he wears it. Those little titanium sparks will burn right into the helmets of these drivers as the cars bounce up and down on their suspension along these very rough Phoenix streets. Let's listen to the sound of this Renault engine as Thierry Boutsen takes us around.
Great driver's eye view there, those sparks coming off the car in front of him. Thierry there going from 6th back to the gear he wants, which is probably second in that case, missing out all the intermediates. The wheel straight there, he brings the engine free.
Hit entrance on the left.
Ooh, close to that apex there. Once again onto Jefferson Street, and up to about 170 miles an hour just at this point. Hard on the brakes into turn 1, down to second. As we heard, one shift for Thierry. He goes into second. He'll stay in second all through this right, left, left again. Stay in the same gear through here, trying to use up all the road to get a good right-hand turn here because he's going to shift up here a couple of times. He's back onto Japanese Street, up to about 130, 40 miles an hour, back hard on the brakes, down to second again probably, turns left, now he'll go up to at least fifth gear, and probably 135, 140 miles an hour under the Honda bridge, hard on the brakes again, that car in front scraping, turns left again in second gear, quick short run here along Monroe Street, back onto 3rd Street, again in second. The only elevation change of this whole track is where they go onto this underpass, otherwise it's dead flat. Down to second again, now onto Washington Street, and he'll go up to 6th gear here again and about 160, 165 miles an hour. Not making much ground on that V8 engine Benetton car in front of him. Hard on the brakes, that lovely shift, straight back to second. Hangs onto the same gear, so again we've got a right, left, up a gear here. Then back again as another left. He'll stay in the same gear between this left-hander and this next right-hander, which brings him back onto Washington. Up the gear, past the pit entrance, and then hold it. Probably in 4th gear around this long left-hander.
I said earlier it's a 12-turn course, and David described 13 turns. Call it a double apex there, just before they hit the first straightaway. Alesi is your leader over Berger, De Cesaris, Senna, Martini, and Piquet. The lead is 4.015 seconds. Boutsen, Madonna, Prost, Nakajima, Griard, and Bernard fill out the top 12. Stay with us. Back in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Iceberg United States Grand Prix here on ESPN, Jean Alesi is your leader. He absolutely ran away at the start from the likes of Ayrton Senna and Gerhard Berger, and with a V8 engine car with Pirelli tires, he is out front, and that is a very improbable turn of events. Now, a guy with a potential problem is the red car. He is 4th in your picture.
That is the #1 car of Alain Prost smoking badly. You remember, though, we saw Gerhard Berger smoke for about half of the Spanish race last year and staggered over the line in 2nd spot. But just look at this Jean Alesi go. He is using that car to the absolute last degree, bouncing and skating around this racetrack and staying in front of Gerhard Berger, an acknowledged master of street like this. But look who's on the run here. Ayrton Senna got around Andre De Cesaris. He's closing the gap to his teammate, but of course closing the gap and getting by him around here are two different things.
Indeed, you can see how wide the streets are here in Phoenix. The widest street circuit you'll find anywhere. Not quite as fast as the one of the Lotus going off with its new Lamborghini 12-cylinder engine. Looks like Derek Warwick.
Yeah.
Another team.
Martin Donnelly had that problem on the grid, so not a very good day for Lotus with their new engine, new drivers, everything's new about the team.
There is young Alesi from Avignon, France. He still lives in the town where he grew up, not far from the Circuit Paul Ricard, where we'll be later this year for the French Grand Prix. Boy, you've got to believe there's going to be a turnout for that race.
Well, of course, he won't be living there much longer because if we go back to what we said at the beginning of the show, he will shortly be making many, many millions of dollars and will no doubt go and live in Monte Carlo or Switzerland for his tax year.
Here comes Gerhard Berger, sitting on the pole in his first Grand Prix with the McLaren team. Notice the rear wings. The McLarens are carrying much more rear wing, giving them extra downforce and allowing them to go through the turns much faster. That, of course, because they have extra horsepower in those Honda V10 engines. There is Ayrton Senna, who was his usual self in qualifying here at Phoenix. He'd go out and take off about 0.8 of a second from the lap record every time he went out, but he developed an engine misfire and was not able to grab the provisional pole on Friday before Saturday's rains prevented anyone from improving.
Now, those three leaders have made a huge gap here on Andre De Cesaris, who should be the next to appear around the corner. Hotly pursued there by Ricardo Patrese.
As De Cesaris, he has dropped back. He now runs in 4th position. Ricardo Patrese is in the yellow and blue.
Patrese must be a lap down now. But the next guy in line will in fact be
Nelson Piquet.
Oh, Nelson Piquet, right. Who we saw in front of the Renault engine car of Boutsen. Obviously Patrese running strongly now, but he is at least a lap down. Patrese not let him by anyway.
That's De Cesaris. Let's see what happens. De Cesaris and Derek Warwick came together at this corner a year ago. Patrese got by cleanly.
Which of course you'd expect that the Renault engine car then did pass Andre De Cesaris under power, which of course you would expect because these V10 engines are reputed to give a lot more horsepower. But Boutsen is having a lot of trouble following this green car of Nelson Piquet, also a V8, but he can't get by him. That of course is a special V8, special for...
It's not a Cosworth DFR, it's a Ford V8 specifically designed for the Benetton team. A great deal of money and time invested in that engine. V8s have done very well here in Phoenix, which I guess it figures they would on a street circuit, not having the long straightaways.
Andrea de Cesa's up to his old trick there. He's obviously off the pace, but there's no way he's going to allow himself to be fast. Piquet thought he had an opening there, but de Cesa's decided he hadn't. That's the sort of thing that could force Piquet right back into the clutches of Thierry Boutsen.
Some colorful work. Oh, one of the McLarens is off. I can't see the driver's helmet. I believe it's Berger. Gerhard Berger, running in second position, has spun it into the tires, and that's a dangerous part of the racetrack. He is just off the line. That's how close he is.
What a turn up for the books.
Gerhard Berger, who started on pole, has not gotten out of the car.
Berger's had a very star-crossed 12 or 18 months with that tremendous string of DNFs, and here he goes into another one with his first drive with McLaren, for which he had such high hopes.
Through the double apex turn, 12 or 13, if you want to call it street turn. The all-important Jefferson Street straightaway. Look at the gap. Let's see if we can find out what happened to Gerhard Berger. Flat lost it.
Just absolutely flat lost it.
The impact was hard, but narrowly missed by his teammate, it looks like.
Of course, those tyre barriers do soften the blow enormously from the driver's and the car's point of view, but not enough to not sustain quite considerable damage, I would imagine, to the car.
Reading the sign language, I think Berger is asking for a push. He can ask his teammate about what that'll get him.
Alesi using every bit of road there.
The remarkable thing about this is Alesi is out there on Pirelli tires. They returned to Formula One after many years of absence last year, and their race tires, frankly, were not up to snuff. The Tyrrell team, moreover, just switched to these tires a few weeks ago, so they have had very little testing time and no racing on these.
Well, the first time that a Tyrrell car turned the wheel with Pirelli tires was here on Friday morning, which is a pretty outstanding thing to do in the first place, and it must be that they need to do some chassis tweaking to make the car and the tire match up. And if they're going this well so soon, it certainly bodes well for the future, unless they can manage to engineer themselves out of it, which is very often the way.
You saw the gap back to to Ayrton Senna. Now here comes Ricardo Patrese. He's a lap down, making Nelson Piquet, Thierry Boutsen, and Alain Prost in the top six. Phoenix, Arizona, home of the Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix, where the seats go for as much as $200. In fact, the cheapest one, if you want to sit down, is $85. For a mere $50, you can walk around. And walking is what the Lotus team is doing. Jean Alesi is your leader. Ayrton Senna, Andrea de Cesaris, Nelson Piquet followed. Thierry Boutsen, the Williams is fifth. Alain Prost is working his way up in a smoking Ferrari. There are the second six. The Pirelli tired cars really holding their own against the Goodyear shop machines. Let's hear from Marty Reed.
Well, guys, remember we were talking about just 20 minutes ago, the excitement, the anticipation? Take a look at Camel Lotus. The dejection after all the work, it's over in less than 20 minutes, and they're packing up to go home.
No break for the Lotus team. And there is your leader.
No sport is the agony of defeat more amply demonstrated than it is in auto racing, because from the driver point of view, he gets himself just as psyched up as the other athlete, but unlike another athlete, sometimes he can only blame his car and not himself, and it is just so depressing. It's very hard to explain. Moreno there, Roberto Moreno, silver, Euro run going very well. They're using the Judd V8 at the moment, and they've got their own V12 coming along as he in turn is being hounded by Ayrton Senna.
Now we're going to pick up the battle for fifth place. Thierry Boutsen.
Thierry Boutsen definitely, I think, is being held up now by Nelson Piquet. It's just a case of getting around him is the problem, but I think if Thierry could get around Piquet and especially the Chesney, who's probably holding them both up, I think Boutsen might be able to make some ground on the cars in front. But until he can get around this trio, or until he can lead this trio, he's got no chance.
These are the third, fourth, and fifth place cars. McLaren pit stop. Here's John.
We have Gerhard Berger. He has found a way out of the tires. He must have had a push start. Now the engine stops. They changed all four tires very rapidly. Looking at the left-hand side of the car, look at the right-hand side of the car. Front body work coming off. The only damage I can see is a small bit of breakage onto the nose cone itself. Gerhard Berger waving his hands, wanting to get back out there, but they won't let this car back out till they know it's safe. We'll keep you updated.
All right, thank you, John.
Well, the only thing you can say about that, of course, is that this time they really can say that they were moving the car to a safer place. This can we push out or can't we push out in Formula One is a terribly, terribly grey area. The only time you can push it away is to push it out of harm's way. If it should happen to start while it's being pushed, apparently that's okay. Seems a bit strange to me, but that's the way it is, and he definitely was in a dangerous position where he was.
Third, fourth, and fifth place cars now joined by the sixth place car. Look at the smoke coming from Alain Prost's Ferrari.
Obviously not up to snuff, and yet he's catching up with those three, which demonstrates again that Andrea de Chezres, I'm sure, is holding the other two up. Nelson Piquet is really trying hard, because 2 or 3 times we've seen smoke pour off his tyres as he locks up, which must be very encouraging for Boutsen right behind him, who probably won't be behind him much longer.
Boutsen dives to the inside. You saw him jink back and forth.
Oh, now that'll slow Boutsen up and drop him back into the clutches of Prost.
I've got to believe Prost is a marked man at this point. He won't make 72 laps in that car, I can't believe.
Talk about him being a marked man. What about his teammate, Nigel Mansell? He's struggled up to 11th spot so far. He's obviously just got around Olivier Grouillard, but I mean, obviously not a good day for Ferrari here.
You saw the top 12. We'll give you another 6 as they round the pit entrance turn. Nigel Mansell running now in 11th over Olivier Grouillard. Aguri Suzuki is 13th. Gregor Wojtek 14th, followed by Michele Alboreto, Paolo Barella, Ivan Capelli, and Maurizio Gugelmin. March cars moving up smartly.
And Prost all over Thierry Boutsen. The Ferrari here, you know, with 7 gears and that semi-automatic shift, electronic gear shift, should have, this is the sort of track where you'd really expect it to have an advantage.
Well, Nigel mentioned that they have been having trouble with it, though, all weekend. They're trying to program the transmission so that they can shift up and down and skip gears along the way, but it has not worked out to their satisfaction. They are not using it this weekend, and Mansell has had tremendous trouble with the standard semi-automatic transmission here on the streets of Phoenix. Back aboard now with Thierry Boutsen as he tries to run down Nelson Piquet for 4th place. And right there is Prost.
Certainly wouldn't want to bet against Prost at any stage of the game in any sort of race. Riccardo Patrese just went out the bottom of the picture there, going extremely strongly because he's pulling away from this quartet. But he's going to have to pull away an awful long way. In fact, he's going to have to pull away at least 2.3 miles to lead a lap down.
Jean Alesi leads by 9.1 seconds over Ayrton Senna. Let's hear from John Visignano.
They're just about to fire the McLaren engine of Gerhard Berger. It's turning over now, and he's going to be going back to amount of damage, a new nose cone, a new rear wing, no damage to the suspension whatsoever, and 4 new tires. He's way behind, but he's going to be going quick.
Indeed, he is way behind, and he comes out just ahead of the battle for 3rd place. Here comes de Chezres, Piquet, Boutsen, and Prost. At a very delicate moment, will he get out of the way? Barely. We'll take a quick break. Jean Alesi leads by almost 10 seconds. Another 21 seconds back to 3rd place. Stay with us. At noon Eastern time, 2 weeks from today. There is your leader, Jean Alesi, having already passed Sandro Nannini in the green Benetton in the background. Alesi now leads by 9.2 seconds. Another 22 seconds back. Andre de Chezres in 3rd, behind Ayrton Senna. Then Nelson Piquet, Thierry Boutsen, and Alain Prost. Well, Prost has now gotten by Boutsen, put Prost up in the 5 hole, and Boutsen has dropped to 6th.
And I don't think he'll be a very happy Boutsen, because I think he had to leave himself a bit of a breather there to have another attack at Piquet. Prost got around him, and of course, as we've already seen, Prost's car is smoking heavily, and there's bound to be some oil droplets in that smoke somewhere. Ayrton Senna in 2nd spot. But not making much impression on our leader, Jean Alesi, who is still, as you say, nearly 10 seconds behind. Almost an unusual situation for Ayrton Senna to find himself in.
Either Ayrton Senna does not have a complete race car, or perhaps he is just taking Alesi lightly, thinking he'll be able to run him back in. There is Nelson Piquet taking a shot at Andre de Chezres for 4th place.
And then it didn't work again. De Chezres is bound and determined to hold him out.
Excuse me, this is for 3rd. Nelson Piquet is a man of some temper. I'm not sure how much longer he will wait. Of course, Mr. de Chezres is a man of some reputation, so Nelson may let discretion be the better part of valor here. Let's take another look at that attempt by Nelson Piquet to take over 3rd place and how de Chezres reacted.
De Chezres using up all the road there to stop Piquet going down the outside. Piquet tries down the inside. So Piquet tries an outside pass, and of course gets himself into a spot of bother there because Chesris has the line, and Piquet has to go around the long way.
Now they're trying it again in another corner, and this time Piquet makes it stick.
Well, maybe we can have another look at that in a minute, but that was a good pass. Boy, I bet Piquet's the lead man, and now it'll be interesting to see just how fast he moved away from the Chesris.
So Piquet now becomes your third-place car, De Cesaris fourth, Alain Prost fifth, and Thierry Boutsen sixth. Piquet has been very vocal in his disrespect for street courses. He doesn't like them at all. His favorite is the Osterreich Ring in Austria, where the speeds are incredible. Nevertheless, he has won both at Detroit and Long Beach.
There you see the oil on Boutsen's camera lens, and of course his goggles will be going the same way, or rather his visor. Now, as we know, they have those little tear-off strips which you can pull off and give yourself a clean view again, but there's only so many of those on each helmet.
Same goes for our in-car camera.
Yeah, it has a really...
Prost tries De Cesaris now and takes it.
Well, in spite of that smoke, Prost is obviously not having much trouble with his car, cranking out some pretty good laps.
Smoking terribly is Alain Prost. Let's see if we can learn more from John Visignano in the pits.
Well, Ferrari's being very secretive about all that smoke coming out of the car. Just like last year, we saw it several times. The car was able to run at speed, and the officials weren't too concerned. When I asked them what's wrong, they say normal, normal. So they are saying that that smoke is normal and won't be a problem for Alain Prost.
Well, smoke is maybe normal for locomotives, but not for Formula One cars.
No, not normal at all. Now, they've either overfilled it, which is the easy way out, or it has got some sort of a leak. It could be an engine leak, could be just an oil pipe, could be a main bearing seal type of thing, or it could be even in a gearbox, but we have no way of knowing. Now, when Berger started smoking this badly in Spain last year, he had already done about half the race. It does not bode well for Prost, in my opinion, starting to smoke like this in about the third or fourth lap, because it's just so much oil he can carry in the car.
Thierry Boutsen taking a shot at Andrea De Cesaris there. Berger did it through the second half of that race in Spain and wound up finishing second, so perhaps not terminal.
Well, Prost is obviously thinking on the same line. I'm going to keep going whatever happens, but we've already seen what's happening to poor old Boutsen's goggles, and of course some of that oil's going on the track as well. Here goes Boutsen down the outside of De Cesaris. Is De Cesaris going to let him through? We'll soon find out. Oh, yes, he had to concede the corner.
Meanwhile, moving up smartly is Gerhard Berger, who may have a healthy race car under him again and be making his way back up.
Also, Senna has, in fact, just slightly decreased the gap that's between him and Jean Alesi. What a revelation this young man's been this afternoon. The gap now down to only 7 seconds.
Whoa, sideways gets Thierry Boutsen off the turn, De Cesaris behind, and then Gerhard Berger. Berger several laps down. Now Berger's going to try De Cesaris.
Very successfully too. Now this is a demonstration, the sort of demonstration that one expects from those Honda engine cars. Here's Jean Alesi going down Washington Street.
And in the back of your picture comes Ayrton Senna. Alesi must now be thinking about the '88 World Champ and, without equivocation, the quickest man in Formula One, beginning to close the gap. We'll be right back. The skies will be more clear, and David's voice will be better than it was a year ago.
It was just a little bit croaky, but this man's voice here will be pitched about 10 octaves higher tonight as he gets into the old bar. Of course, he's one Formula One driver, don't get into the bar, but what a display he's putting on this afternoon. Senna is winding him in slowly but surely. There you see that gap is definitely coming down, but boy, I tell you what, even if he drops out right now, he'll be able to say to his children, I really got a good run.
And slower traffic coming up, so the gap may close further. Let's learn more about Alesi's situation right now with Marty Reed.
Ken Tyrrell, what's the situation right now? What's your plan of attack with your man in the lead?
Well, we're only 5 seconds in front of Senna now, and Senna is gradually getting closer to us. And we don't really have the horsepower to hold him off. So I expect Senna to catch us and pass us within the next 5 or 6 laps, and that won't bother me too much. We'll then be in a comfortable second position.
Can your Pirelli tires hold up, and are you happy with their performance so far?
This is the first time we've raced them, so we don't know yet. We're about to find out.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I would say you've got to be pretty happy with what's happened so far, but the whole weekend has gone absolutely swimmingly, as they might say in Ken Tyrrell's part of England. And of course, when he talks about power, by the end of this year, possibly, they too will have the Honda V10, and they will certainly have it next year. And then what a combination that'll be. Jean Alesi in the newly revamped Tyrrell, designed by Harvey Postlethwaite, and with Honda horsepower. Tough combo.
Remember, Tyrrell was one of the giants of Formula One racing not too many years ago. Jackie Stewart won a couple of world championships. The Tyrrell Fords were just about unbeatable. Down low on the racetrack, Andrea de Cesaris goes underneath Maurizio Gugelmin.
Gugelmin and Capelli again having a terribly lackluster weekend. In fact, Capelli only got in the race because Alio was removed by the marshals, by the stewards of the meeting. And again, those Leighton House cars just not showing the promise that they looked so good at the end of the 88.
Now we've got, looks like Martini going underneath Alain Prost. Pierluigi Martini, who faded so badly from the outside front row in this race, now beginning to show signs of competitive life again. Now the Brabham is going to go by. That's Stefano Modena and Satoru Nakajima right under Alain Prost. The Ferrari must be going away.
Prost car going away. And of course, it was strange. We were going to say, I wonder what had happened to Martini, because he had such a great grid position and just faded instantly.
Let's learn more about Prost. Here's John.
We have gotten some more out of Ferrari now that the car has begun to slow. The oil is coming from the gearbox. Low oil pressure in the gearbox. And as you said, David, there can't be much oil left in there.
Well, it's only a matter of time. There's Eric Bernard in the LaRousse car, the LaRousse Lola. He ran incredibly well this morning in the warm-up, qualified well too.
Now Alain Prost is down to walking speed. Tough opener in 1990 for the defending world champion, one of only 6 men to have won the world title 3 times. Let's see if he pits this time around. No, well, we'll get back to the racetrack. Looks like Pierluigi Martini now closing up on the lap. Gugelmin, number 8 behind him, young Stefano Modena. I mentioned when we discussed the grid that Modena just made this race. The Brabham team arrived at the 11th hour. Here is Prost making the Ferrari pits. Let's get down to Bizignano.
Alain Prost comes into the pits and is engulfed in that smoke. As soon as he stopped, it went all through the cockpit. He shut off the engine immediately, waved his arms. He knew that there was not going to be any chance of fixing the problem. An awful lot of smoke coming out the back of the car and an awful lot of oil on the ground right underneath the gearbox. It was definitely a problem with leaking oil from the gearbox.
And now it looks as though Maurizio Gugelmin will be lapped by yet another car. This time it's Satoru Nakajima, who has driven brilliantly for Tyrrell as well this weekend. And the LaRousse Lola gets underneath, powered by a V12 Lamborghini engine, supported by Chrysler Motors.
Gugelmin, as I said, Gugelmin and Capelli having an absolutely miserable weekend in their judge-powered Leighton House what were marchers. And they're going to have to get their act together because they have failed miserably in 88 and 89, and not doing very well in 90, by the way.
Saw coming up behind, looked like Nigel Mansell was closing in. Now look at the gap. It has decreased even further. Jean Alesi.
2.5 seconds in front of Ayrton Senna, who comes in.
It's less than that now. Our timing and scoring system only works when the car is past the start-finish line. And as you can see, Ayrton Senna less than a second now behind leader Jean Alesi. We're going to take a quick timeout and get back to see if Ayrton Senna, the '88 world champ, can close up on the newest star.